Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to practically learn about HTML text formatting. In the previous video we talked about HTML elements, headings, paragraphs and etc. So if you have not watched the previous video, I will recommend you to go watch the previous video first. It will give you more clarity about HTML. So let's start this video by exploring the HTML text formatting. HTML contains several elements for defining text with a special meaning, and formatting elements were designed to display special types of text such as B tag for bold text, strong tag for important text, and I tag for italic text, and etc. And let's start exploring these formatting elements one by one. So firstly we have B element and strong element. So let's see how they work in HTML. So firstly let's define a B element here, which just formats the content or text provided it into the bold text without any extra importance. So let's just say this is bold text, and below this let's also define a strong element which just formats the content or text provided it to bold text with extra importance. So let's just say this is a strong element. So if we now save and run our index.html file in the browser, we should see the B element and the strong element. Although the B element and the strong element look similar, but behind the scenes browser load them differently, and for screen reader users they work differently. Then we have an I element or tag, which stands for italic text, and EM element or tag, which stands for emphasized text. So let's see an example of this also. So below this let's add an I element here that just says this is italic text. The HTML element defines a part of text in alternate voice or mood, and the content inside is typically displayed in italic. Then we have the EM element, which defines emphasized text, and the content inside it is also displayed in italic. Note that a screen reader will pronounce the words or content in EM element with an emphasis using verbal stress. So let's just say inside the EM tag I am emphasized text, and let's just save it and open it in the browser and let's see how it looks. So let's refresh the page. So here we have our I element or tag that just says this is italic text, and then followed by em element or tag that just says I am emphasized text. Visually they look the same, but behind the scenes they work differently, like I said earlier. Then comes the mark element, which is used to define text that should be marked or highlighted. So let's also see an example of it. So below EM element, let's define a mark element here, and let's just say this is mark or highlighted text. So let's just save it and open the index.html file in the browser and refresh the page, and here is our mark element that just highlights or marks the content with background color of yellow. Then we have the small element that just simply displays the text into smaller text. So let's also see an example of it. So below this let's add a small element here, and let's just say this is small element content, and let's just save it and open it in the browser. So let's refresh the page here, and here we can barely see the small element content that just says this is a small element content. So if I zoom a little bit, maybe you can see the content that is here. So here is our small element text that just says this is small element content. You can see that the small element content is smaller than the emphasized or the P element content text. Next we have the del element, which simply defines text that has been deleted from a document, and client browsers will usually strike a line through the deleted text. So if we go to our Visual Studio Code and let's add a del element here, and let's just say this is del element content. So if we now save and open our index.html file in the web browser and refresh the page, we can see that we have our del element content here, and the content has been striked, which means in HTML document that this content is deleted. Then we have the inserted element, which defines a text that has been inserted into a document, and client browsers will usually underline inserted text. So let's go to our Visual Studio Code and implement the inserted element here. So inserted, and let's just say this is inserted text in the document, and let's just save it and go to the browser here and refresh the page, and we can see that our inserted element content is here with the underline, which simply means in the HTML document that this is an inserted text. After this, we have the subscript element that defines subscript text. Subscript text appears half a character below the normal line and is sometimes rendered in a smaller font. Subscript text, for example, can be used for chemical formulas. So let's go to our Visual Studio Code. So let's write a BR element here to insert a new line break in our web page. And below this, let's write in capital H and followed by the subscript tag, that is sub, and then a closing tag also. And below this, and inside it, let's write 2, and after this let's write a capital O. And if we save our file here and open the index.html file in the web browser and let's refresh the page, we can see that we have H2O written correctly with H being capital and 2 below the normal line and then followed by the capital O letter. So this was an example of subscript text. We also have an element called sub, which stands for superscript text. The sub element defines superscript text. Superscript text appears half a character above the normal line and is sometimes rendered in a smaller font. We can use the superscript text, for example, adding a footnote. So let's go to Visual Studio Code and also see an example of superscript. So let's also add a line break here by adding the PR element, then writing 3 capital W's, then followed by the superscript tag which is sub, and let's write inside it 1. So if we now save and open the file in the browser, so let's see that. So let's refresh the page here and we can see that we have 3 capital W's here and 1 in the superscript tags. After this, we have some more HTML text formatting elements such as the BR element, which inserts a line break inside the web page, and the HR element, which draws a horizontal line in the web page. We have already discussed these empty tags in the previous video, so you can check them out. And moving forward, we have the HTML pre element that simply defines pre-formatted text. The text inside a pre-element is displayed in a fixed width font and it preserves both spaces and line breaks. So in Visual Studio Code, let's add a PR element here first to insert a new line break, and below this let's add our pre element. And let's add some content here. So let's just add Shubham compiled tag is amazing, and let's just copy it few times. So copy paste, paste, and let's add a few more spaces here, and below this let's also add some content here, and let's below this add some more content here with spaces. Let's add some spaces and paste the content here. And with this unformatted content, what I'm trying to say, you will understand it in a moment. So let's just add some content here. So let's just save now and let's open our index.html file in the web browser. And if we hit the refresh button, you can see that our pre-element content is displayed as we have typed in the Visual Studio Code. Now why it is like this? Like I said earlier, the HTML pre-element simply defines pre-formatted text. The text inside a pre-element is displayed in a fixed width font and it preserves both spaces and line breaks, unlike a paragraph element that just ignores the spaces and new lines inserted into it. And it is also a main difference between a paragraph element and a pre-element. Then next we have the block quote element that defines a section that is quoted from the another source. Also, browsers usually indent the block quote elements. So if we go to our Visual Studio Code and add a BR element here to insert a line break here and then define a block quote element here that just says I am Shubham Singh, and let's just copy it a few times. So let's copy and paste paste here, and that's all. Let's open it in the web browser and refresh the page here. So if we refresh the page, we can see that we have some indent here and a text saying I'm Shubham Singh, etc. Now we also have an attribute of block quote element called site, which is used to define the link to the source of block quote content. For example, let's add a site attribute here. So inside the block quote element, I am writing CIT site, and let's just say HTTPS and example.com. So if I now save it and refresh the page, we can see there is no change here, but for browser and SEO, that is search engine optimization, it is useful. And also we don't have talked about the HTML element attributes. Don't worry, we will talk about the HTML attributes soon. Currently let's just focus on the formatting elements. So next we have the Q element, which defines a short quotation. Client browsers normally insert quotation marks around the quotation, or in simple words double inverted commas around the content. So let's one more time go to our Visual Studio Code and insert a PR element here to insert a line break in the web page, and below this let's add a Q element, and let's just say this is code. And if we now save it and open it in the web browser, so let's refresh the page here, and we can see our Q element here with inverted commas or quotation that just says this is code. After this, we have the abbreviation element that simply defines an abbreviation or a short form of something like HTML, CSS, ATM, etc. Also, marking abbreviations can give useful information to browsers, translation systems, and search engines. So let's go to our favorite Visual Studio Code and insert a new line break element here. So let's add a abbreviation tag here. So abbreviation, and let's just say HTML. And along with abbreviation tag, we can define the full form of the abbreviation by passing the full form to the title attribute. So let's define the HTML full form in our title attribute here. So let's just say hypertext markup language. So if I now save it and open the index.html file in the web browser and refresh the page, so we can see that our abbreviation element is here, and if we hover over it, we can see its full form saying hypertext markup language. Then we have the BDO element, that is kind of a fun tag which stands for bidirectional override, and what it does is that it overrides the current text direction. For example, let's open our Visual Studio Code here and insert a new PR element to insert a line break here, and below this let's add a BDO here, BDO element here, and let's just say Shubham compiled tag is amazing, and add a full stop here. So if we save and open our index.html file in the web browser, and if we refresh, we can see that there is no change in the text. But if we add a direction attribute to our BDO tag, let's just say direction, and if we write right to left, and if we save and refresh our web page again, we can see that the text has been reversed from right to left direction. So these were some HTML text formatting elements that can be used to format the text in a web page. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize all of it to use them. You can make a note out of these tags and practice them in your own website. Because the more you practice, the more you will be learning the practical implementation of HTML elements and when to use which tag. So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below your curious questions. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Link is in the description. Thanks for watching, and in the next video we will dive deeper into HTML element attributes. So see you there.